right, a happy Thanksgiving edition of the Cavalier Insider pregame show. It's the regular season finale, Virginia taking on Virginia Tech. Here we are in our festive setting. Thanksgiving week, Andrew Anspacker, Jerry Hootie Ratcliffe here at the Daily Progress Studios. What do you think of this new look?
I love it. I'm very traditional kind of seasonal guy, so I think it's cool.
Unfortunately, we didn't bring our Pilgrim and Indian outfits. Maybe we'll save that for a later date. Maybe we'll get festive for a potential Christmas pregame show, because all of a sudden Virginia has a chance to still be playing around the holidays. Virginia knocking off Miami last week. You heard it here first. Hootie and I both called it that the Cavaliers would pull that upset. They did. We didn't think it'd be that convincing a fashion. Virginia wins this thing 30-13, and really it was 30-7. There was a pump block late that Miami scored to give it the final score, but a Virginia team that really got back to its formula of winning. It was defense going to dominate. It was the offense is not going to make any backbreaking mistakes. It's going to keep the ball on the ground, running-wise, and they did it to a T.
Yeah, and again, that's Mike London's recipe for winning football games, and once again, it proved to be what he needed. Even though Kevin Parks got knocked out early, Khalid Shepard stepped up and played a really good game. Smoke Mizell, I think, keeps getting a little better each week. And as you mentioned, Grayson Lambert cut his mistakes down to a minimum. And the defense was outstanding. And it's been outstanding most of the season, even in losses. But this time they were able to create some big turnovers that really broke Miami's back, and I think broke their will as well.
Yeah, defense and special teams were huge. Can't forget the field goal block there at the end of the first half, which led to 3 more Virginia points, giving them a 13-7 lead at halftime. And he kind of went into the break, but there was kind of like this, okay, that's good for the first 30 minutes, but Virginia had failed so many times in the second half of the season, particularly during this 4-game skid. And they came out and kind of just reversed the trend. Despite an early Grayson Lambert interception, the defense held after that play. Then after that interception, the defense kind of forced Miami to get the ball back to UVA. After that, it was all Cavaliers. Taking advantage of turnovers, scoring, like you said, Khalid Shepard, that running, Darius Jennings on those jet sweeps. I think it was kind of obvious because they've seen Grayson Lambert, young quarterback, give games away at times. North Carolina comes to mind, certainly. He had those turnovers against Florida State early on, which got rid of an early lead. This particular game, they weren't going to let Grayson Lambert do that. He only throws the ball 3 times in the second half, only twice after that early pick.
Yeah, and I think Steve Fairchild called a really good football game. He saw something in the films that he knew that jet sweep was going to work. It worked better than it has all season long. He obviously saw Miami was susceptible to something there. And again, they played somewhat conservative, smart football, and it paid huge dividends.
It sets Virginia up at 5-6, all of a sudden with a chance to go to a bowl. And how about these storylines? Takes on a Virginia Tech team, also 5-6, also going for a bowl. The Commonwealth Cup on the line on Friday, I should say, at Lane Stadium, 8:00 kickoff. It's going to be on ESPN. All kinds of storylines involved, but let's get to the one I think people are most talking about. What happened with Mike London's job status with the Miami win? How do you see Friday's result affecting his future?
I think it had a huge impact, really. I really don't see them firing Mike London unless they go down to Blacksburg and lay a massive egg omelet on the day after Thanksgiving. I just don't think that that's going to happen. From all we know, the criteria was that this team had to improve. Obviously, they've done that by leaps and bounds, winning 5 games, potentially 6, and possibly going to a bowl game. They played close in every game they played except Georgia Tech, and that's the kind of game that can get out of hand against just about anybody.
Yeah.
So, I know that fans would like to have seen a few more wins, and that was possible. And also they won a couple of close games as well.
Right.
But, unless they go to Blacksburg and just blow up and don't play well, I think Mike London has saved his job and rightfully so, because I think they've done what they were supposed to do. They've improved, and with another good recruiting class coming in, I think this team could do something next year.
Yeah, considering the schedule they were put up against, many people did not give them 3 wins. Coming off a 2-10 season, everything involved. This team has 5 wins, and really, you look at a couple of those games here and there. Certainly, UCLA early on, BYU early on, absolutely North Carolina. This could be 7 wins right now, if you think about it.
Absolutely, it could have, and again, I think you got to give them a little credit for playing that kind of schedule, because they could have gone the North Carolina State route and played 4 non-conference give-me's, and then beat somebody like Wake Forest and Syracuse, get bowl eligible. But these guys, in the luck of the draw, they got Louisville and Florida State, 2 of the better teams in the conference, right, in the crossover division. So they played a tough schedule, and they've hung in there, and then I think they should get a lot of credit for that.
And I think the one thing that's obvious is we'll kind of wrap up this first segment here. Sometimes when you see teams, the writings at least starting to get on the wall about their coach, is sometimes maybe they give up, they lay down, things like that. Even in that 4-game skid, I know Georgia Tech was a bit of a blowout, but the effort still there, because they came back the next week against Florida State and played pretty tough. You can tell these guys want to play for Mike Leonard. I think that says a lot, maybe toward. I'm sure the administration sees that as well.
I do too. I think one thing that the administration looks at closely is if the coaches lose the team or not, and certainly that was never a question with this football team. These guys always felt like they could win. They go down to Florida State and play them toe-to-toe for most of the game, and if not for a couple of I think Florida State scored 2 touchdowns in 12 seconds off Virginia turnovers. Yep. If not for that, they might have made the Seminoles sweat a little bit more. So, yeah, I think there's a lot to be said about that these guys played hard, not only for London, but just to try to salvage something out of this season.
Yeah, it says a lot about, particularly those 22, 23 seniors that were part of basically Mike London's first recruiting class at Virginia. Wanting him to, to go out, not to go out, but to stick around, wanting themselves to go out on a high note, meaning keeping Mike London around at least for next season. So that's kind of the stage that's been set up for Friday as Virginia takes on Virginia Tech. We will preview that game after this. All right, welcome back to the Cavalier Insider pregame show. Thanksgiving edition. That's Andrew Anspacker, myself, and Jared Ratcliffe. Breakdown. UVA, Virginia Tech, Commonwealth Cup, Blacksburg on Friday, 8 o'clock prime time on ESPN, Black Friday edition. And, well, one storyline. It's been around for the last decade or so. Virginia Tech has owned this rivalry, has won 10 straight games. Last year was 16-6, the year before 17-14, a little tighter. But then again, there's been games where it's been 38-0, 37-7, lopsided. You look at the whole scope of athletics, UVA versus Virginia Tech. Virginia wins the majority of these games. But in the most exposed sport, the biggest revenue sport, it's been all Hokies as of late. Virginia knows that. It's no secret. And you can't I don't know if people call this the mediocrity, but, both teams 5-6, both playing for a bowl. Virginia, we talked about this in the first segment. I think Virginia has had an encouraging season, maybe for its fan base, parts of it. I know there's frustrations out there. But 5 wins with that schedule, coming off 2-10, signs of improvement. Virginia Tech has gone kind of the opposite direction. Not too long ago, they were in the Sugar Bowl. They've had some subpar seasons, certainly for their standards as of late. Should the Hokies lose on Friday, ends the bowl streak at 21 years, one of the longest in the country.
I think it is the longest in the country.
And heads maybe will start to roll up out there in Blacksburg. So, Hootie, could you have scripted more of these type of storylines going into this one?
I know. It's almost like a Hollywood script. 2 teams, again, going in opposite directions. And prior to that, one was in the penthouse, one was in the outhouse.
Yeah.
Now they're both desperate. It could be the Desperation Bowl. I don't know what you want to call it. But, it's if this game needed any more juice, it certainly has it with the bowl lingering out there like a carrot for one of these two teams. And while it might be a lousy bowl game, not sure which one, but there's the lower tier bowls are nothing to write home about. But to Virginia, it would be definitely a carrot because they haven't been to a bowl in a few years. Virginia Tech, I'm not so sure they'd be excited about it, but I think they do have a lot of pride and would want to keep that string alive.
To keep it alive, they're going to need a little more offense than they showed last week at Wake Forest. And arguably one of Frank Beamer's worst losses in his Hall of Fame career. They go down to Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and lose 6-3 in double overtime in a game that set football back, I don't know how long.
Ooh, it was ugly.
Years. This game is tied. It is scoreless at the end of regulation. In those first 60 minutes, the Hokies ran just 11 plays in Wake Forest territory. By the way, Wake Forest 3-8. So it was not a good showing. Obviously, defensively did its job. Bud Foster, how frustrated do you think he has to be coming off of that? But the offense is pretty bad. There's really no one else to slice it. Only scored 6 points against Miami on a national TV about a month ago back on a Thursday night in Blacksburg. They've had some serious lows. They've also had a high. They knocked off Duke just 2 weeks ago. So what are you going to get on Friday? I think, I guess we'll see. But, Hootie, when you look at the nature of this rivalry and the nature of this last 10 years, it's come down to a lot of it's turnovers, who can win that turnover battle. I think that's huge for Friday because conditions, you know how they're going to be. It's late November in Blacksburg. It's going to be windy. It's going to be cold. Passing's not going to be really a good option to choose. It's going to have to control the ground game. Virginia, as banged up as they are on the offensive line, they have managed still pretty well running the football. Should Kevin Parks play? We don't know. Khalil Shepard did a good job filling in. Virginia Tech on the other side has had every running back keeps getting banged up. They got some serious issues. How do you see kind of that line of scrimmage battle going? Because really, I don't see a lot of passing in this one.
I don't either. And like you said, I think the last two times Virginia played down there, the wind was so bad that if you were thrown into it, it really affected the path of the ball. So, in a way, I think this favors Virginia in a big way because Virginia is 15th nationally in defending the run. Virginia Tech is 98th in rushing the football, and I think 100th in either total offense or scoring offense. So their offense has been atrocious. And getting back to that Wake Forest game, until they went into overtime where the ball was placed at the 25, the closest Tech had gotten into Wake Forest territory was the 28-yard line. Wow. So there's been a lot of heat on Scott Loeffler down there this year, their offensive coordinator. Probably makes Steve Fairchild feel pretty good.
Right.
They've had 4 games this year where they didn't make 300 yards total offense, I believe. So I would think Virginia's defense is kind of licking their chops at the prospects of shutting Tech down. Meanwhile, Virginia's running game is not in the top echelon of the ACC, but it's been pretty effective, and particularly of late, they've found ways to run the football. And I think a lot of that is the play action, which they seem to be able to freeze those linebackers and safeties a little bit and opens up a little bit of the running game. I think the offensive lines from both teams are about equal, really.
Yeah.
So I think the weather and all that probably favors Virginia a little bit in terms of running the football. And I think for the first time in a long time in this series, I think Virginia is better at quarterback than Virginia Tech. And that goes way back maybe to the Matt Schaub days, so I could say that. Both defenses are pretty good, and I think that could be kind of a standoff. So the running game could be the difference, and I agree with you. I think turnovers, if Virginia's defense can force some turnovers, that could also be a huge factor in the game.
Yeah, and the 10-game skid that has kind of been the biggest storyline of this rivalry as of late. Virginia's only won the turnover battle just once in those 10 years, and that was last year in a 16-6 loss. So that's huge. It might come down to Michael Brewer against Grayson Lambert. You said you think edge Virginia there. Not a matter of who throws for 300 yards, matter of who throws less interceptions.
Right.
I don't expect either to really throw more than 20 times in this game. But again, that's 20 opportunities. Virginia with Anthony Harris and Quinn Blanning back there certainly can make interceptions. Virginia Tech with Kendall Fuller and company, certainly they have the opportunity to make plenty of picks. A lot of talent in both teams secondary. Virginia Tech at the corner and UVA at the safety. So it'll be some intriguing battles. If you're into defensive football, saddle up for this one. If you like offense, well, maybe find another way to enjoy your Friday night plans. But nonetheless, those are storylines set up. Who's going to win? We'll give our predictions after this. All right, prediction time for the final time, at least in the regular season here on the Cavalry Insider Pregame Show with James Packard. Jerry Ratcliffe counting you down to kick off Virginia Tech in the annual Commonwealth Cup in Blacksburg, 8 o'clock on Friday. Again, we kind of told you the storylines earlier. 5-6 versus 5-6. Winner goes to a bowl. Loser stays home for the holidays and perhaps has some other things factored in there in terms of the futures both teams' coaching staff. So a lot of things on the line. We got this golden pumpkin here.
I think we should give it to the MVP along with one of my mom's pumpkin pies. I think that's what we should do.
There you go. Well, here you go. I'm saying UVA makes the least amount of mistakes, and I say that because I think that Steve Fairchild is not going to give Grayson Lambert too many opportunities to do so. I think they'll be really conservative. They'll rely on Virginia's defense to make the plays. That Virginia Tech offense, not a lot of momentum right now coming off of that dismal performance at Wake. UVA's defense, a lot of confidence going right now after what they just did to Duke Johnson and company. I think they make enough turnovers, set Virginia up in good enough field position. My golden pumpkin winner, Ian Fry. I think field goal game is going to be huge in this one. Virginia wins this thing 13-10. Ian Fry was a couple of big field goals with that win and everything swirling down there. He's had a great year.
He really has.
It's going to be a great time to top it off. I'm going Ian Fry and UVA wins.
Oh, that's hard to beat. Ian Fry's been solid all year long. I agree. I think defense is going to be a big issue, big factor in this game for Virginia. And having covered this game since the 70s, it seems to, and I've covered it from both sides of the spectrum, and I've always felt like that for some reason Virginia Tech's players bring a little more intensity into this game. And I don't know if it goes back to the old stereotypes that let's show those Zima drinking blue bloods up there in Charlottesville that how football is played.
Yeah.
And for some reason, some of the Virginia kids over the years I don't think have seemed to get it when it comes to that kind of thing. I think it's going to be up to guys like Henry Coley and Ant Harris and some of those guys to bring that intensity, match that intensity early in a game and kind of negate it until they just settle down and start playing football. And if they do that, I think that it gives Virginia a strong upper hand because they tend to fall behind early or lose the momentum. Tech seems to set the tempo early because of that intensity. So I think if Virginia can match that, they should be fine. Again, I think it's going to be a matter of whether Eli Harold and some Vilas and some of those guys Romero can create some turnovers and do something with it. But I think my golden pumpkin is going to go to Henry Coley. I think he's going to find a way to get these guys fired up. I think he's going to find a way to get to Michael Brewer and cause a big turnover, and he'll get some of my mom's pumpkin pie. I'm going to go with Virginia 20-17.
There you have it. So maybe the streak ends. Virginia maybe off to some bold destination like Detroit, Michigan, or Shreveport, Louisiana. We'll find out later. But that can only happen if they win on Friday. Hootie and I both think the Cavaliers pull it off and really turn around this season, go 6-6 in the regular season, head off to the postseason. So what happened, we'll find out on Friday night. But this is our final edition of the Cavalier Insider for the 2014 season. Thanks for watching.